Hey everybody, my name is John Wood. I am the newly published author of A Fight to Survive, Disability Devotionals, and the AuthorOnWheels children's book series focused on disability. Welcome back to the channel. I am AuthorOnWheels, and this is another video discussing my books, my life, and my fight to survive. If you've just found this channel and you are a writer too or want to be one, go ahead and hit that like button down there, hit the red subscribe button, and the notification bell to the right. I invite you to sit down and talk with an author on wheels. On today's video, we have a guest speaker. Ms. Keirsten Snover, owner and CEO of Anthropology for You, will be giving us a little bit of background into her business as well as what started her on writing. Keirsten, take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Keirsten Snover and I'm an anthropologist. And in my free time, I'm an artist and I create acrylic paintings like these. So it's very fitting that I'm also the new director of Artistic Creations for AuthorOnWheels. I am so excited to join John's team. So I'd like to introduce myself a little in this video. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and my disabilities and also tell you about my small business. And then I'm going to talk a little about how writing is a part of my life. So let's start with me and my disabilities. I have a rare neuromuscular disease called mitochondrial myopathy, and it's a progressive disease that unfortunately does not have a cure. So what exactly is mitochondrial myopathy? Well, you might have learned in high school biology class that mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cells. They provide all the energy that your cells in your body need to function. Well, in mitochondrial diseases, which are called mito for short, your mitochondria don't work right, and since every cell in your body, except for red blood cells, has mitochondria in them, mitochondrial diseases can affect every part of your body. Now, there are lots of different kinds of mitochondrial diseases, and mine is a mitochondrial myopathy, and myopathy means muscle disease. So this means that with my mitochondrial disease, muscle problems are the most prominent. Now, I have lots of problems from my mitochondrial disease. So like my eye muscles are weak, so I have double vision, as well as other problems like retinal and lattice degeneration and pigment dispersion syndrome. So I wear bifocal glasses with prism lenses. I have problems walking, so I use a wheelchair to get around. I have a manual wheelchair that I use inside my house and an electric wheelchair for outside. And my stomach muscles are affected, so I have something called gastroparesis, which is a GI disease that happens when the stomach muscles don't work right. The stomach is essentially paralyzed. So I am tube fed through a jejunostomy, which is also known as a J-tube, that was surgically implanted into my abdomen, and the tube bypasses my stomach and goes straight into my intestines. And my breathing muscles are weak, so I have chronic respiratory failure and breathe using a ventilator. I'm on what's called non-invasive ventilation, which means I have this mask on my nose rather than a tracheostomy in my throat. I have some memory problems from the mitochondrial disease too, so I rely a lot on technology to do things. And my mito also causes chronic pain and severe fatigue, so I take special medications to try to deal with those problems. And I also have several other medical diagnoses, and some are probably related to my mitochondrial disease, like migraines, while other things are not related to having mito, like asthma and Meniere's disease. And if you don't know what Meniere's disease is, it's an inner ear disease that causes hearing loss and vertigo, which is a spinning feeling. So between my mito and my other diagnoses, I'm dealing with a lot of medical problems on a daily basis. So that's a little bit about me and my disabilities. Now I'd like to talk about my small business. As I mentioned, I'm an anthropologist. I teach online courses in anthropology through my small business called Anthropology for You. Now, many people don't know exactly what anthropology is, so I'd like to take a moment and explain it. Some people think that anthropology is digging up dinosaurs, but nope, that's paleontology. And other people have seen the TV show Bones, but that's just forensic anthropology. There is a lot more to anthropology than that. So anthropology is the study of humans, and it is made up of 4 fields. Number 1 is cultural anthropology, and this is the study of human cultures around the world. Number 2 is physical or biological anthropology, which is the study of the human body, and this includes forensic anthropology. Number 3 is linguistic anthropology, which is the study of human language. And number 4 is archaeology, which is the study of what humans left behind through excavation, which means digging things up. So that's what anthropology is, and my dream was always to teach anthropology at a community college, but then I became too sick to continue working and I ended up on disability. I still dreamed of teaching anthropology, but I had so many medical problems that my dream seemed out of reach. Like I said earlier, I have the wheelchair, the feeding tube, the ventilator. I deal with the chronic pain and the severe fatigue and the memory loss and stuff. And I need 11 hours of in-home nursing care each day. And I'm in the hospital a lot and I have a ton of medical appointments. So I needed to find a teaching position that had a lot of flexibility. Then I realized that starting my own business and teaching online from home would be a great solution. I could work whatever hours were best for me, and I could take breaks during the day when the fatigue or pain or other symptoms were too much. And if I was just having a bad day overall, I could spend the day resting and just start working again the next day. So I created my own business called Anthropology for You, and I teach online courses in all 4 fields of anthropology. Now, I've been in business, almost 2 years, and I have over 1,500 students from around the world. I offer 6 online courses right now, and I plan on having about 25 courses when I'm finished with everything. So that's a little bit about my business. Now, I'd like to talk a little about writing in my life. Have you ever written something? Maybe a poem or a blog post or even a book? As an academic, I've done a lot of writing in my life. I've written research papers, journal articles, a master's thesis, and more recently, I've written over 100 blog posts. But most of my writing now involves writing lectures. And I think writing is writing, whether you're an author writing a fiction novel or if you're a teacher writing a lecture. Well, you might be thinking writing a novel is very different from writing a lecture. But I don't think so. The basic process is the same. The process of writing my lectures is actually very similar to writing a fiction novel. So let's look at the process so you can see what I mean. When you're writing, first you have to think about your purpose. What is the purpose of your writing? If you're writing a novel, why are you writing it? Do you want to build a name for yourself? Do you want to make money? Or maybe do you want to change lives? You have to think about your purpose when writing lectures too. When I'm writing a lecture, I ask myself, what is the purpose of this lecture? What do I want students to learn? It's important when you're writing to know what exactly you are trying to accomplish. Next, you need to define your topic. So, what are you going to write about? If you're writing a novel, you need to figure out what you're going to write about and what angle you will take on whatever topic you come up with. Well, you also need to do this when you're writing lectures. So, when I'm writing lectures, I have to figure out what topic I want to write about. Then you need to figure out who your audience is. This means, who are you writing for? Who will be reading your writing? So, for example, will it be children or adults? Men or women? People who like horror stories or people who like mysteries? You need to write something that appeals to your audience, or no one's going to buy your book. So if you're writing a novel, think about who you are writing your book for. Who will be entertained by your book? Who will buy your book? Well, you also need to consider audience when you're writing lectures. I write lectures for adult students who want to learn anthropology but don't want to have to go to college to do that. But I'm also creating some online courses for children, like homeschool children. So I'll have courses for elementary school students, middle school students, and high school students. So now you know your purpose and your topic and your audience. You might think that you could start writing your novel now, but you need to do some research before you start writing. Now, if you're writing a novel, you might think, I'm just writing fiction. What do I need to research? My story is completely made up. Well, remember, when you're writing a novel, you need to create a world that your reader can become immersed in. So you need to research things like your character's occupation, or the time period you're writing about, or the location where your story takes place in. So here's an example. I read online about this author who was writing a fictional novel, and the book setting was on a small island, and the main character was a commercial fisherman. So the author had to research things like island life, weather patterns, boat types, and fishing jargon. Or let's say you're writing a crime novel. You'll probably want to research things like weapons and forensics. Or maybe you're writing a romance novel that takes place in France. You'll want to research life in France and places in France. And even if your novel's setting is completely made up, like a fictional small town near the ocean, you can still do research on similar places and incorporate the details about these places into your novel. So, how do you do this research? Well, there are several things you can do. First, you can Google for information, and you could also do a Google image search. So, for example, if you're writing about a cafe in Italy, you can search for images through Google Images and find some pics so that you have ideas of what that cafe should look like. You can also use Google Maps, especially the Street View option. That way you can travel to other places and learn more about them without leaving your home. You can also get books from your local library. So, for example, if you're writing a crime novel, you might want to check out some library books about forensics. And you can also watch documentaries and YouTube videos to get information for your book as well. So, just like if you're writing a book, when you're writing lectures, you need to do research too. I always do research before I write my lectures. For each online academic book course that I make, I read every academic book that I can get my hands on, which is usually about 50 books. And I also read some journal articles that researchers have published in academic journals. I also watch documentaries and YouTube videos as well, and I also simply Google for more information. So how do you keep all this research organized? Well, you need to have a system to organize your research because your research will start to pile up and it will be really hard to go through if it's not organized. Now, you can either store your research in paper form or you could go digital. If you want to use paper, you could get a binder and separate it into sections, like you could have a section for setting, a section for characters, and so on. And then you can print out the information that you research and add it to your binder. Or you can get a notebook and write information into it. If you go digital, you could create a folder on your computer and have subfolders for each part of your research. You can also use writing software like Scrivener, where you can store your research in the same place as your writing. Personally, I use software called Evernote to organize all my research. Evernote lets you store everything, all different kinds of files, all in one place. It's made up of something called notes, which are kind of like blank pages, and you can write in a note, create tables and to-do lists, add files like PDFs or photos or screenshots. You could record audio notes and so much more. You can even save web pages in Evernote so that you don't have to bookmark everything that you find online. There is so much you could do with this software, and I highly suggest checking it out. Evernote has a free version that you could try. I pay for the premium version, which is less than $10 per month, and I think it's well worth it. So now you have your research done, and so it's time to start writing. But first, you need to think about the structure of your writing. So you need to organize the things that you want to say. And it's a good idea to create an outline. So if you're writing a novel, you need to think about the structure of your novel and what is going to go in each chapter. And you need to make sure that the story flows logically. Now, the same thing is true with writing lectures. You need to have a structure to your lecture. So, for example, I start off by welcoming students to the lecture, and then I remind them briefly of what they learned in the last lecture, and I tell them what they'll learn in this lecture. So, now you have figured out the structure of your book and you have an outline. Now it's finally time to write. But how do you get started? Well, you can set yourself up for success by doing a few things. First, think about what times of the day your creative brain is at its best. Now, some people like to wake up early and write before the day really starts, but other people like to do their writing in the evening. Then, schedule writing time into your calendar, even if it's just 15 or 30 minutes, and will all add up in the end. You should also create a writing space. So, for example, maybe you have a desk and a computer as your writing space. Or maybe you have a certain spot on your sofa that you sit on with your laptop. Whatever you choose, make sure that your writing space isn't too cluttered or in a place that's really loud or something, because these things will distract you when you're trying to write. You could also listen to music if that's helpful, or you could just work in silence, whatever makes you more productive. Now you need to do these same things when you're writing lectures. I schedule time in my calendar to create my lectures, which is usually from about 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. And I have a desk set up in my living room, and I sit in a comfy recliner chair instead of a regular desk chair. It's more comfortable for me, and I can even put my feet up. So now you have set yourself up for success, and now it's time to actually start writing. Remember, at first, you're just writing a draft of your novel, so just worry about getting your thoughts down. Don't worry about making things perfect. Now you can write in a Microsoft Word document, or in the Scrivener software I mentioned, or a Google Doc, or an Evernote file, or whatever works for you. And if you're having trouble writing, you can speak things out loud. You can use a voice recording app or free software like Audacity, or you can use speech dictation software where you talk into a microphone and everything you say is typed out on the screen for you. I do this stuff when I write my lectures. So I write my lectures in Evernote, and sometimes I use the dictation software that came with my Mac computer, and so I just speak my lectures out loud and the software types it all down. So now you have a first draft of your novel, and now it's time for editing. Now sometimes people like to skip over this part, but it's important to make your writing the best it can be before you publish it. You don't want to find out after your book has been published that you spelled some words wrong or that your grammar is incorrect. So the first step should be running a spell check. But a spell check doesn't find everything, so you need to read over your writing very carefully to look for errors. It's also a good idea to have a professional editor look over your novel, or at the very least, another person. You also need to go through an editing process when you're writing lectures. Personally, I use software called Grammarly. You've probably seen ads for Grammarly online. Once again, there's a free version and a premium version. I've tried both, and I think the software is really helpful. So now you have edited your writing and you have a finished novel or a finished lecture. Time to congratulate yourself on all your hard work. As you can see, writing a novel is a lot like writing a lecture, and whatever type of writing you do, I hope that you've learned some tips from this video. Now, if you want to connect with me, just follow me on social media at Anthropology4U. All of the links are on your screen. And if you want to learn about anthropology, check out my free online mini course called What is Anthropology? Just visit my website at anthropology4u.com to sign up. Thanks for watching.